I declare and decree in this season, I will submit to the voice of the Holy Spirit calling my name. I am walking in the fullness of His purpose and plan for me and my life. It is my
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of She Emerged, the Manifestation of Me, with me, your host, Shalimar Cherie. I'm excited to talk with you all today, as I always am. I hope that and pray that everyone is having a great day um, and that you are blessed. Uh, we all are. We woke up this morning, could have been another way. So, today I want to talk with you all about um, some mommy daughter issues. I discuss this from time to time. I definitely explored it in my book. Um, and for those of you who have read the book, you know and understand that I had a very toxic relationship with my mother. Um, it is still very challenging to this day. However, when you know better, you do better. And so I'm in a different space and I'm able to manage it a lot better. And I've learned to have boundaries and, a few other things. But there are some of us who just are not there yet and are trying to get there. And in the process of trying to get there, um, you can encounter some hurts and some disappointments while you're dealing with those feelings. And so I encourage you um, to find a person, find your person, someone you can vent to, someone you can talk to first and foremost. Um, do not be ashamed to seek professional help. Therapy works, it really does. It is great to listen to, talk to, engage with people like myself who are sharing experiences. And although I'm a nurse, I'm in no way a psychologist. So listen, take the best part of my story for yourself and do what you can to get yourself mentally healthy. And sometimes that includes finding a mental health professional um, to engage in to get you a little bit further, a lot further. So please don't shy away from that. And, listen, the internet is a great place, great for resources. But again, um, find yourself a licensed health professional to help you get through the bigger hurdles that come along when you start digging into your mental health. You need somebody to be able to pull you back from those dark places so that you don't get stuck there. It's dangerous. Your mind could be a very dangerous place when you get in there unassisted. So, with that being said, I have, again, I've been seeing and reading, and again, from my own experiences, um, more and more young women come out and talk about, and men, and talk about their experiences growing up with a toxic parent. Now, I will say this, and I always say this: people can only give you what they have to give. So, although I cannot make excuses and will never make excuses for my mother's behavior, I will say that she could only give me what she had to give, which wasn't much. She had her own sets of traumas. She came up in a time where mental health was very much taboo, frowned upon, and swept under the rug. She definitely grew up in a what goes on in this house stays in this house um, era. And so she could only do what she was taught to do, which was cope the best way she could cope. And unfortunately for myself, I happened to be born um, to a mentally unhealthy person who was never allowed to deal with her traumas, never given the resources um, to deal with those things that affected her. And so it created a trickle down effect, and she bled all over me, um, figuratively speaking. She had not dealt with the things that she had gone through. And so she was not able to give me what I needed to nurture me properly, to give me the love and encouragement and structure um, that I needed. She was oftentimes very bitter and angry, and I bore the brunt of that. Um, and again, our relationship is still testy to this day because she still has her moments. And as people get older, they kind of get set in those ways. And so, we have our relationship is very touch and go. She is really unable to accept um, my growth and my development. Um, she has always had a very entitled personality. And so, although in, I don't know the version of her that she is now, she still has an expectation of me as her biological daughter. And so, oftentimes, that is where the rubber meets the road with us, and we often clash um, because you can't put that expectation on me. Um, your failures are not mine, and you didn't prepare or do what you were supposed to do for you or for me, and now you expect me to clean it up. Not gonna happen. I will do my best. I will never see you in a dangerous place because that's just my heart, and I'm going to ensure that you are safe and cared for as best I can. But you're not entitled to my life. Um, and that's that. I have to focus on the family that God has blessed me with, that I've earned to have, and the life that I fought for. You can't be bitter at me about that. So we have those conversations um, a lot. They're not always pretty. Uh, so um, I do recognize and know that what I encounter when it comes to my relationship with my mother is not exclusive to us. Um, and unfortunately, it is very common. A lot of mothers, and unfortunately, African American mothers can be very toxic to their daughters because of the things that they experience, because of the time and space that they were born into. They're often very hard on us, um, and we bear the grunt of their failures a lot in the home. And so it it affects our, not even kind of, it affects our growth and our development as young women. And because a lot of us are trying to escape, that abuse, we run out and hit the ground running and run right into a brick wall and find ourselves in unfortunate circumstances and situations. Um, and it's very sad. And then there are some who aren't strong enough and still have not found the support to break those chains and those generational curses. And they are repeating the cycle um, with their own children. And that is very sad. Um, Healing is important. Do things happen? Absolutely. But healing is important. Before you go and impart into another human being, um, you need to be sure that you are equipped to do so. And a lot of times people don't take this into account when they go out and they make children. And then you just are creating another generation of broken, damaged children. Um, and so it creates this toxic environment of, you know, belittling and demeaning, and it makes you vulnerable. And as a child who was very much vulnerable, because a child who is not protected um, is a target. When people around you notice and recognize, because people see that nobody is protecting you, nobody is fighting for you, nobody is covering you, you become a target um, for some very vile and unfortunate things. And unfortunately for me, I suffered quite a bit of abuse because I was unprotected. I didn't have a home. I didn't have a safe haven. I had my grandmother's. Let me take that. I had my grandmother's for as much as they could do for me. Um, and but that I wasn't always able to be under their care, which left me vulnerable to abuse. And because my mother was unfortunately battling addiction, and my father was going through a bad space of trying to find himself, I was unprotected. Um, and so I suffered quite a bit. And because of the toxicity that lived in my mother and her anger and bitterness towards my father, she ensured that I suffered. Whereas people would take in my sister, and she wouldn't allow them to take me. She wouldn't allow me to go be comfortable. She forced me to stay with her. And nobody in my family would challenge her. So when she was homeless and we were living in a car, I was forced to sleep in that car while my sister lived comfortably with other family members because she just refused to allow me to go. Um, was DIFUS involved? Absolutely. Did they fail? Miserably. Because unfortunately, they were fooled by me. They could never prove anything because I also had this really misguided loyalty to her because I felt responsible for her. So whenever they did come around, I would make excuses for her behavior at the expense of myself because again, I didn't know any better. It was just an awkward situation, and because nobody ever called her out or questioned her um, on her behavior, I just felt like there was that this is my normal. This is what I have to endure. Um, she she sent me next door to the neighbor to be assaulted because she needed a babysitter, and when she was told, she called me a liar um, because her addiction was bigger than my health and my safety. And so growing up in that um, was very hurtful and damaging. Um, and so over the years, I fought very hard for her approval because I felt like I needed that. And so no matter um, how horrible she was to me, um, I still for years fought for her love because I felt like I needed her love and validation. Because what would make a mother not want to secure the health and safety of their child? And at that point in my life, I didn't realize that I was not only doing battle um, with her mental illness, I was also doing battle with her addiction, and I was just not going to win. Um, but I really thought that I could. And I fought with that for many years, thinking that I could fix her. And if I could fix her, then I could fix me. Um, and it took me a long time to realize that that was just not the truth. And so when I decided, when I had children, I decided that my children were not going to ever suffer those things. And that is when I began my actual healing journey. But in the process of that, a lot of things that I recognize that a lot of things that were said and done to me lived with me. Um, and I had to start to actually rebuild the way that I saw myself in order to even move forward in my healing because I had to know um, that I was not all the things that I had ever been called. And let's just be clear being a dark skinned Black girl. I was born in the 70s, the late 70s, and I grew up through the 90s into the crossover of the millennium, was not always a positive thing. And so to have your mother, the person who gave birth to you, um, demean you because of the color of your skin, it made me self conscious about the way that I looked. To have this person never make you feel confident and beautiful and worthy, it lived with me because if my mother didn't feel that way about me, then how does the rest of the world perceive me? And so that was just one of the many ways that having this relationship with her, this toxic relationship with her, kind of damaged and almost broke my spirit. Um, I will always credit my children for saving my life because my babies were the proof that I could be loved and I was worthy of love. But having to undo the years of verbal abuse was something that was a bit of a challenge because you have to unlearn it. You have to unlearn the things that you have allowed to live in your head, that these things are not true. Um, that I am beautiful, that I am worthy, that I am capable. And I know that today, but not knowing that or being convinced otherwise and accepting it because nobody around me would ever correct it and oftentimes participated in it. which is sad. So I became her tragedy. I was the whipping post. I was, for all the things that had gone wrong um, in her life, and she displaced all of that on me. And with a child's heart and mind, I convinced myself that I could somehow fix it and fix her. And I learned, sadly, that I could not. Um, and I engaged in trying to make sure that she was just taken care of, even though she didn't take care of me. Um, I sacrificed things, including my own sanity, and no matter what I did for her, it was never enough. She always found a way to criticize or hurt me or put me down. And then after she would kind of like, berate and beat me up, then she would love bomb. Then I would get this, you know, I, I- I'm so sorry. I really do love you. I'm sorry for all the things that I've done for you, that I've done to you. I would get this really long, drawn out apology. I would get tears, and I kid you not, month, 2 months, max 3 months, we would be back to the same behavior whenever she couldn't have her way, whenever I couldn't accommodate her, whenever I wasn't willing to sacrifice the life that I pulled out the mud for me to accommodate her. And then came the point when I realized that again, I was still falling into old habits and I needed to create boundaries. And so I started to create boundaries with her, and be firm in what I would and would not accept, what I was willing and not unwilling to participate in, because I also was unwilling to allow this behavior to affect my children. And when I saw that, I knew that I had to change something. So I am not. I'm not in any way telling you not to love them, but you sometimes have to love them from a distance. Because when a person the person that is supposed to love, care, and protect you is demanding that you in turn do that for them when they can give you nothing, and especially when you're not even old enough to understand it, that is wrong. Um, that's wrong. So the Bible says, honor your mother and father, and your days will be long. The Bible also says, don't provoke us to anger. So you can't provoke me to anger and then turn around and throw in my face, well, I'm your mother, you're supposed to, or your father, and you're supposed to love and respect me no matter how I treat you, because that is not true. Respect is due to a dog. And first and foremost, we need to stop teaching our children that they are not due a certain measure of respect. Because guess what? We don't teach them that they are due a certain measure of respect. They then go out into the world and think that they have to bow down and buckle to every adult because you have to respect adults no matter how they treat you. That's a lie. That is not true. Now, yes, are our elders do a certain amount of a certain level and measure of respect? Absolutely, but so are the children. They're people. Their feelings matter. And if we don't teach our children that their feelings matter, that is how they end up going out getting into bad relationships, bad situationships, um, stay in unhealthy environments, poor work environments, because they think they're just supposed to take it. Well, it's not true. That's not true. Children are due a certain measure of respect, and they have to be taught um, and allowed to embrace the fact that they're due a certain measure of respect. Um, that is that comes with self-love and having dignity and pride in who they are. But if, as parents, we're the person beating the life out of them and demeaning them and damaging their self-worth, what do we think they're going to go out the door and do? So because nobody taught me, or not until later, um, that I had value, that I was worthy, that my feelings did matter, um, I ran out the door into straight foolishness, looking for love in all the wrong places, um, and a multitude of missteps. it was honestly my grandmother's and a few my village that kind of corrected that. Um, and although I still ran headfirst because I was very much damaged and hurt, it took me a while to grasp what they were saying. So even when people were encouraging me, I was already so broken that I really wasn't receiving it. I would hear them, but I didn't really receive it because I didn't believe it. And it took for me to start my healing journey and begin the separation um, from the soul tie that was my mother, for me to actually start to hear people, um, and for me to actually see me. I started to journal. I started to pray. Um, I wrote down my goals. I would start to write down positive affirmations. I had them stuck on the side of my bed, um, so that when I got up in the morning, I could read them. And it was really like deprogramming myself. Um, and it wasn't always easy. There were good days and bad days, but because I had um, and was determined to be the best version of myself and change my perception of me. And I was determined to heal. I wanted to. I made the decision to. Um, the process was a lot easier. Um, and so I began my journey. And here I am. Um, it was very much and still is very much rewarding. I will say that healing is an ongoing process because I still have moments when I'm triggered. I still have moments and seasons where I'm hurting because I'm reminded, or I grieve the relationship that I wish I had with my mother. Um, but I am at a full understanding now that she's just unable to give me, you know, what I need. So, my purpose for sharing my story with you is to encourage you that it is possible. It is possible to come out of those toxic places. It is possible um, to survive that. Um, and I am proof that it is possible. And all the things that um, I was ever told by not just my mother, but other family members and society that I wouldn't have and I wouldn't do, I've absolutely done it. Um, I have five beautiful children, well, four in a bonus. Um, I have an amazing husband who understands my seasons, who has loved me through a good portion of my healing journey. I have an amazing career. I'm a nurse. I am a philanthropist. I give back to my community on a regular. I am a community advocate, and I'm big on that because again, I want to be the person that I needed. Um, and I've accomplished so much more than I ever expected. And here I am talking to you guys, sharing my story because I think it's necessary for people to have examples. Um, Representation matters. And I represent the survivors, or am one of the representatives for survivors of childhood trauma, um, for trauma in general. Um, SA, VV, and a host of other things that I've survived in my life. And so it is possible. You are worthy. Um, you are not their tragedy. You are not their missteps and their mistakes. And they're not yours to own or to hold. And you deserve the life that you desire. And love and happiness is your portion. Now, I'll touch on this and I'll probably continue on it in another video because my time is winding down. Um, for those mothers and parents that feel like um, their children, they're living vicariously through their children, because that's a whole other situation. Um, your children are not yours to keep. Our job, our assignment as parents, is to send our children out, is to teach them, guide them, give them wise counsel, and allow them to go out into the world and meet it on their own terms. We cannot hold our children hostage. Um, they're not our little best friends. Our issues should never become their issues. And you got to find a healthier way to parent, because that also creates some damage in those children, especially if you're raising them to be codependent on you because you need them to need you. That is wrong, because you're not promised to them. And God forbid something happens to you. How can they function if you've taught them nothing but to be dependent on you? It doesn't make sense. So again, that is another subject for another day, but I did want to throw that in there because um, not everybody. That's a different version of trauma. Um, and toxic parenting is toxic parenting, no matter how you slice it. They're just different versions of it. And so, for those who are dealing with that type of toxicity, again, healing is your portion. Move forward. You are entitled to the life that you're entitled to, that you desire. And you're not required to settle just to appease a parent. They've lived their life. We have parents, we've lived our lives, we've made our mistakes, we're still living. Who are we to hinder another human being from having the joy of life and living it well? It's not for us to do. It's wrong. It's very much wrong. We guide, we give wise counsel, we love them through their low moments. We don't ridicule them for them, um, and we encourage, and a host of other things as mommies. But I'll leave that right there. So, um, I hope that you uh, got something from today's video. I hope it inspired and encouraged you um, to start your healing journey. I will say that uh, it's worth it. Um, so, for every bump and bruise that I encountered along the way, um, I've had double the triumphs um, than I've had the trials. It is possible to heal from those things. And don't hold yourself hostage is the biggest takeaway, because what I found was I was holding myself hostage to those things because I couldn't get past. That was the dominant voice in my head, even though I knew um, deep down otherwise. Uh, it wasn't until I created boundaries that I was able to really see myself and see the relationship for what it was and what it would never be, unfortunately, because a person has to be willing to get in the ring with you. And if they're not, then there's nothing you can do about that. You can love them from a distance, but don't hold yourself hostage to those situations. Is the biggest thing I want you to take away. And I know it hurts um, to have um, to fight for something that unfortunately you just won't ever receive because they don't have it to give you. Um, and so forgive them and move forward with yourself and pray for them. That's all you can offer them, because the longer you hold on, the further down it's going to pull you. Because unless they're willing to acknowledge their wrongs, it's never going to make it right. And if a person is not willing to acknowledge their part, there's nothing. You're not going to get anything from that. So let the rope go. Move on, heal, and fight for the life that you deserve. That is all for today. I will see you all next time. I appreciate you rocking out with me. Again, I pray that you get something out of this. I pray that the messages receive the way it is intended. As always, the sun rises and sets alone every day and manages to shine. The moon rises alone every night and still manages to light someone's way. Be the light. Check out my podcast. You can catch these episodes on my podcast, She Emerged. The podcast is S.H.E because the She is an acronym for Saved, Healed, and Enough. It is now streaming on all digital platforms, or you can subscribe to my YouTube with the same name. She Emerged probably comes up easier if you search my name, but they are both available. My book is also available. She Emerged, the manifestation of me, and She Emerged, the guided journal. So there are two books, and I'm so bad at promoting myself. The guided journal, and the guided journal accompanies the book because this is my style of journaling. This is what I did when I started my healing journey, and I still journal. I have books everywhere. See right now, the notes that I'm giving you, everything is a journal for me. I write everything down because it was a way for me to express myself privately until I was ready to share candidly. And I took my journal and actually turned it into a book. I used some references to some really amazing women in the Bible who have gone through some similar things and situations that we are going through today. And there's a lot of writing prompts in there and just ways for you to explore yourself. Some really good graphics. Shout out to some of um, the artists that contributed because I don't draw, but I wanted it to be fun and interactive. But again, you can get it at on my website www.savedhealedenough.com, and it's also available on Amazon. And I hope that get the book. Let me know what you think. And I will see you all next time. I do have some new and exciting things coming. Let me hear from you in the comments. I definitely enjoy engaging with you all. Check out my TikTok. I'm not saying much, but I do share a few things. Y'all know, that social anxiety thing. But I'm still working on that because I'm still a work in progress. You all have a good day, and it was great to chat with you. Catch you next time.
Reaping season, and I shall reap the harvest of my labor as promised. I have been called. I am a willing vessel.